All right, gotta do my little intro. Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Kickstart with Kayla. I'm your host, Kayla Farner, and I am so excited that you are here with me this week. If you haven't connected with me already, be sure to follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Kickstart with Kayla. And if you have any inquiries, you can email me at kickstartwithkayla@gmail.com. So I am so excited for this week's episode. This has been in preparation for a while now. I have Meg Williams here with me today. Hello, Meg.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing good. Meg, would you like to talk about what exactly you do? Because I think it's awesome.
Yeah. So my name is Meg Williams, like she said. I work for AbolitionNC. We are an anti-human trafficking nonprofit. We're based in Greensboro because that's where we were founded, but we work with communities throughout North Carolina as well as we can help statewide or nationwide. We actually were founded in about 20 years ago through a prayer group in Greensboro, North Carolina. One of the co-founders' daughters was being groomed for human trafficking and kind of found that out through social media. And she had that great relationship with her daughter and kind of, had that conversation. And then from that sparked a prayer group. And then they prayed about it for a while. And then they decided to start a nonprofit called AbolitionNC. And so that's where we came from. There's a whole bunch of backstory. A lot of stuff that we do is prevention, awareness, training, and then there's like everything else on the other side. And so, like, we have training and curriculum that is in our public school systems. So, in North Carolina, by law, all public school staff members have to have some kind of training, anti human trafficking training. So, we kind of bridged that gap and created training and curriculum that's also we have some of our survivors that help us update that training and curriculum every year, as well as we have lawyers that help us make sure that it aligns with the law. And so just from that, from the end of 2020, so the end of the school year of 2023, 2024, the data came back and from surveys from staff members, and they reported that they were going to do over 1,000 calls to report something suspicious. And they wouldn't have
Wow.
done that if they didn't know, what to look out for. Whether they did more or less, we don't know. So we have that. We have our another part of our awareness pillars, kind of like how we like to talk about it, and it's our documentary. So we've done a documentary with stories from survivors, and it's them telling everyone their story, how it happened, how they got into it, how they got out of it, and then how they um, could have prevented it. And also, when we did the documentary, it really wasn't supposed to be faith based. It was just supposed to be another avenue. We are a faith based nonprofit. Our training curriculum is not. That's how we can get it into schools. Um, but our documentary is just kind of a common thread that they found Jesus through it all, whether they cried out to Jesus when they didn't know who else to cry out to, which is pretty awesome. And then we're working on another documentary and then update our training curriculum, but now we're back into emergency safe housing initiative for 2026. We just have a lot of people who've called our line from different places around the nation needing safe housing. And so we've jumped back in that bandwagon. Sorry, that was a lot, but I'm very passionate.
No,
Uh,
no, that's amazing
yeah.
that you guys are doing it. And also, one thing that I think with human trafficking, I think it's something that we talk about a lot, but not necessarily going into the details of the signs, how to prevent it, what to look out for. It's just kind of like, hey, we know it's a problem.
Yes.
Um, yeah, so I think it's amazing that you guys are spreading awareness, especially with the training in schools. Because I think that's where, if correct me if I'm wrong, like a lot of those signs can be seen. Like you were saying with the reporting.
Yeah. Yeah. So when it comes to like signs, like everyone's like, what does a trafficker look like? Well, you can't really pinpoint that because they can be anyone. It's so we basically tell them the signs to look out for, whether it's someone missing a whole bunch of school, or maybe they got a brand new phone, or maybe they're older and someone now has control over their ID and their debit card or their credit cards, and they have fancy new clothes when they originally didn't have fancy new clothes, whole different group of friends, or maybe they just stopped hanging out with friends. So you have all these different signs, and it's always evolving, like the new signs or new emojis on social media. I mean, it's crazy how it's constantly changing. But yeah, like so school, I this is what I personally believe in. There's like three places that you can reach people. It's like for us adults, it's like home, work, or like the restaurant we go to or the Y that we go to. For kids, it's home, school, extracurricular activities. And sometimes they can even be trafficked by their family members. We have in our documentary a lady that talks about that she was trafficked by her dad. And so we need to get into one of those three, into the school is one of those 3 that we can really stop this from happening. Um, so yeah, the signs are big, and I think a lot of teachers are starting to realize seeing the signs and being able to make a difference in those kids' lives.
Yeah, and what's the name of the documentary?
So the documentary is Bring to Light. So
Okay.
I can easily send you the link. We do a lot of these at churches. So it's like it's a faith-based documentary.
Yeah.
Do it at different churches and so they can see the different stories and how like one of the stories, this girl was trafficked through a church in North Carolina. And so we have to be conscious. And so we sign a contract with the survivors. So we have to use a password. So people can ask requests for it and I can give them the
Okay.
password to watch it. But when we show it at churches, like we're going to be showing one in February at a church, anybody can come to it. We just try to protect the identity of the survivors because some of their traffickers were never caught.
Mm, okay, that's good to know. I would like that. I'd
Right.
love to see that. That's amazing. One thing too with human trafficking, this is like the first time I've ever heard Jesus in that situation. Um, which is really cool. And I wanted to kind of go into that, like just how you have seen him work through all of these really dark circumstances.
Yeah. So I know it's crazy. Um, I go back to a lot of the stories from our documentary because we can share those stories. I can't really share some of the stories of the ones that we're working with right now, but
Mm.
for our documentary, like one lady was talking about how she didn't know who else to cry out to. So she cried out to the Jesus that her grandma told her about. And then some of the other survivors, when they got out of trafficking, a Christian organization came in, or Christians came in and surrounded them, and they found Jesus that way. So one girl was really young, being trafficked through roadblock. They groomed her, which is basically manipulating her for the process of flying from Charlotte to Miami, and she was on her way there, but she was a lot younger, and so she took her pet rabbit, and she couldn't go through TSA because she had her pet rabbit, and then that's when they put 2 2 together, and she ended up calling her rabbit's middle name Miracle, and it just shows you how, like, so many survivors talk about in the midst of all the chaos and the mess, like, Jesus helped them out, like, Jesus
Mhm.
helped them get out, and so it's just and I think a lot of people forget that, he meets us in our mess. He meets us when we are just rock bottom and we feel used and abused, how God just comes in and, you know, saves them where they are, and so it's pretty powerful. Some of the stories that I hear, um, bring me to tears, like, listening to some of these
Mm.
people telling me when they need get into a safe house, and almost every safe house that is in North Carolina, huge majority of them are faith-based that work with human trafficking survivors, which is pretty awesome. Um,
That is.
yeah, so it's showing how the Christian community, the faith-based community is really reaching out to make a difference, and a lot of these safe houses are on, like, the down low. Like, if you go to certain websites, you would never know that they have a safe house, but they do, and how they're mentoring and encouraging and doing Bible studies with these women and men is just it's phenomenal. It's cool.
That's crazy. And what powerful testimonies these people have too. And I think that is just that can just be used as proof that, you know, God is real and God is a loving and a hardworking God that, like you said, meets us where we're at. If we are at rock bottom, he is there right there with us. So yeah, I can't even imagine just how like transformational these people's stories are.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've heard so many just amazing ones. I'm sure that's even impacted your faith as well.
Yeah, definitely. I a little backstory about me real quick. I grew up in what I call the Quaker world. So in North Carolina, there's a huge group of Quakers. And growing up, we were told, like going to Quaker, like, going to different camps or doing Quaker things that, we Quakers helped with the Underground Railroad. They stood up for people when they couldn't talk for themselves. I've also have really good friends who've foster and adopted kids that were trafficked, and being able to see those kids' faith grow, and my friends who are parents see their faith grow, and how just that God never forgets anyone. I mean, he's right there. And so it's been cool to see how when you talk to these people, like we have survivors on our board, and how they're pastors. Like some of them are pastors now, and use they don't use what happened to them as a negative thing. They use what happened to them to share the gospel, to tell other people, like, you know what, it could, no matter what happens to you, God's going to be there for you. And so it's very encouraging too for me, because it's almost like my husband and I have like our head on a swivel, like when we go places. But it's also at the same time, like we're able to, if we see something suspicious, go talk to that person and, be able to see if they're okay. And it's like, I don't want to say God has given me this like spidey sense, but it's like, I know too much. And so it's been able to, I can go and ask those people if they're okay. Like, and even if they are okay, or maybe they're just upset because their boyfriend broke up with them or something, like I can sit there or stand there in the bathroom and pray for them. It's
Yeah.
just it's been cool to see how many opportunities that we get to have.
For sure. And one thing too, because this is like a really serious situation just with human trafficking. I think a lot of people kind of go that do not have a strong faith, kind of immediately go to the idea of, well, if all of this is happening, like a good God would not let this happen. Like, where's all like if he was so good, none of this would exist. And so I think with that too, like so many of those people wouldn't have come to Jesus if they hadn't been in that situation. I didn't know if you had anything more to say about that or like if you've heard that as well.
Yeah, I think sometimes God uses trials to bring us back to Him. And I'm not like, these people have done nothing wrong. I just believe that sometimes when we're in rough situations, God brings someone to us, because sometimes we are so blindsided. We're so blinded by all the negativity that we have to have somebody else come into our lives and be like, no, like this, God's using this. Like, let me tell you about God. Let me tell you about Jesus. And so, um, but yeah, I think sometimes people may never have experienced Jesus if they don't have the trials in their life.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, when there is darkness, Jesus is the light. And so when you are totally surrounded in just complete utter darkness, the only thing that's going to get you out of it is if you see that light and if you follow that light. Um, but again, that light can't come into it unless there is some type of darkness. And we do live in a broken world. And I just think that's a really powerful example of just how great his light is and just the impact that it can have. No matter what your background is, what experience you've gone through, you can go through something really traumatic and he still can find a way to help you and bring you out of that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Um I wanted to ask you too, where has God showed up in unexpected ways through Abolition and C?
Oh, wow.
Uh-huh.
Um, fun. Um, yeah, well, the biggest one was, well, when we did the documentary, Again, our training and curriculum is not faith-based, but when we did the documentary, I think I said earlier, it wasn't supposed to be faith-based. It was really just supposed to be another avenue of awareness. So instead of us going and talking for an hour, you can hear these different stories. And when we did this documentary, at the end, we realized it was unexpected, but how Jesus was the common thread in all of it. And we're working on another documentary this year. And that's the same thing. We're using a story from someone that's in our documentary already. His story is phenomenal. And he talks about spiritual warfare and when he got caught into pornography, which, led in some other stuff, and how he talks about how the spiritual darkness really is there and how he remembers praying in his room, asking God to come in. And he talks about, like what you were talking about, bringing it to light, like bringing this issue to light to where, one, to the traffickers, so people can know what's going on and traffickers can be caught, but also like God, bringing the light into your life. And so he kind of talks about all of that and how we do a lot of these documentaries in churches because it's a faith-based documentary, and how so many people will come up to us or email us afterwards and tell us stuff that's happened to them. And, we have to, you know, report it, if we need to, and it's giving people a space where they can talk about things because a lot of people didn't even know that maybe that they were trafficked when they were younger because sometimes they're just brainwashed. They don't realize it. But then after they get to see the documentary, they get to, search their soul and realize, well, maybe that did happen to me. And so then we have Christian counselors at all of our events. So the Christian counselors can come in and help those people. So it's just like, there's so many different aspects with Abolition NC where God just does amazing things, like when we're trying to raise money because we're a nonprofit and how God just provides for everything. Like he provides for the emergency safe housing. He's providing for updating our training curriculum and our new documentary. It's just when God is in the center of things that you do, he provides. And sometimes we don't see it until after we're through a storm in our lives, but it's awesome to look back and be like, no, like God provided for everything. And God's definitely has provided nonstop for Abolition NC.
Yeah. Yes, every time I've looked back on something that in the moment I thought this is the worst thing that could ever happen to me, I'm always so thankful that honestly that it did happen because I wouldn't be who I am today without that, but also I wouldn't be who I am today without turning to Jesus in that moment, and just the way that he provides in every single circumstance. You just have to turn to him and ask, and just kind of surrender yourself to him, and he will provide everything else that you can't. Um, I am curious, how common is human trafficking? Because I feel like a lot of people don't quite understand that.
Yeah. So in North Carolina, we are in the top 10 for calls going to the human trafficking hotline nationally. So that's no calls going to the police or DSS. So one of the reasons why North Carolina is considered a hot spot is because we've got the coast, we have the mountains. It's really easy to get to Virginia or South Carolina. It's pretty quick. We have highways that go north and south and east and west. We have international airports. We've got a good amount of international airports within our state. We also have ports, international ports as well. Um, so it's just and lots of college towns. So it's pretty common in North Carolina. We just don't hear it because usually when they arrest someone who was a trafficker, they also charge them with a whole bunch of other charges as well. So you don't always see the human trafficking charge. But yeah, a couple of months ago, I think it was one of the news stations reported that Charlotte is a major hotspot. And usually when they get a tip that something's going on, by the time the police officers get there, everyone's already gotten up and left and moved. It's a huge, huge hub. So yeah, we're North Carolina. It's pretty common here.
Wow. Yeah, I'm from Burlington,
Okay.
and we have 2, like, main exits on the interstate, and at one, there's a Target, and at one, there's a Walmart, and so my mom's always told me, like, "Do not go to either by yourself," because it's just so easy to just be in that parking lot, and it's right beside the interstate, and you can be gone
Yeah.
just like that.
Yeah, a lot of human trafficking, um, that does happen where people just get kidnapped, but a lot of it we're realizing now has to do a lot with them grooming, which is another word of like manipulating them into believing that this person is a safe person, whether it's this person word vomited on social media and the person comes in and agrees, like, oh, yeah, my parents are horrible, or I just, you know, I hate my job too, or whatnot. That they try to find common things and then kind of feed off of it to make them feel like that they're a safe person, and then they wanna meet up and go from there. So it's like, sometimes they don't really realize they're being trafficked until it's too late because they thought that that person was their friend.
So it's almost like they kind of look for that vulnerability.
Anyone who's got major vulnerability, groups of people, individuals, they they go after they go after them. So it's I know, it's mind-boggling.
It is because you're especially with people that you think are safe, like, you're more inclined to confide in them, you're more inclined to be vulnerable with them and share things that you wouldn't share with other people, so that is quite sad, that's really scary too.
Yeah, including
Wow.
for these kids that are growing up with screens, like social media, they're on it all the time. When I grew up, we had AOL as a messenger, whoop, whoop, and we also had internet that was connected to our landline. So if somebody called, we got booted off, but there was no texting really until I'm totally telling my age, until I was like older in high school. There really wasn't, I mean, there was an Insta group, there wasn't Facebook, there was MySpace and Zanga, which I know probably, goes right over some people's heads, but we didn't have the whole world in our hands like these kids do. And I mean, if they need to find something, they can just Google it and get information that something's going on in a different country where it used to take us until the 5 o'clock news to find that out. So
Yeah.
they are today's society when it comes to kids and people using social media, they are more vulnerable than we were when it came, well, because we didn't really have social media growing up. So it's just weird.
Yeah, yeah, it is, and I've even noticed that too, just the people that will I mean, I'm 20, like, people reaching out to me, and I'm like, oh, I don't know who you are," um, and yeah, and so it is definitely a scary time, especially like, for children, like, or middle schoolers, or people that are in school and are just they're not feeling the best about themselves, and social media is the way that they cope, and that is something that, a lot of people my age are addicted to, um, so, yeah, it is scary, um, I wanted one more question I did is for people that are listening, what are some next steps people can take to help with Abolition NC to support the cause, or even just like to identify some of the warning signs themselves?
Yeah. So one way people can support us is obviously they can give. We are a nonprofit, so donations help. So all of us at Abolition NC, we're all part-time because we want a majority of the funds to go towards updating the training and curriculum, going into the churches and helping with the emergency safe housing that we are back into. And another way also is we love doing awareness events at churches. We do everything like the graphics. I mean, the event's like an hour and a half long and you're watching a film for an hour of it. And then for the other 30 minutes, it's like the host of the church, us talking, and that's about it. And then we have like the information booth, but it's like human trafficking 101 tells you about all the signs and everything in one film. And so we go all over the state to do this documentary called Bring to Light, but also it's easier when you have connections to those churches so that, it's not like me randomly messaging the church or going up to a church and talking to them. But when it comes to like signs and who to call, we always tell people you can call the human trafficking hotline, you can call the police. It's never a bad thing to make a report if it's like fault. Like if it came out, let's say you reported that you thought Susie Q was being trafficked, something's just not right. And you made that report and it came out to be nothing. That's okay because now that person can be more aware. Susie Q can now be more aware of her surroundings and look into human trafficking and figuring out the signs. But so a lot of the signs are like people have brand new friends, um, new cell phone, hotel keys is a new thing too. And back in my day, it was like the hotel key on a huge thing, but now it's like those little credit card.
Yeah, the cards.
Yeah, people have lots of those because that's not normal to have a whole bunch of those. It is sometimes they have brand new tattoos that they didn't have before, especially if it has somebody's name on it. That's a new thing too well, it's not really new that traffickers will put tattoos on the people that they're trafficking with their name on it or with a barcode kind of showing that they belong to someone. Um, and if you just see something that's just out of place, just go we tell people don't go and try to interact with them because you can put them in danger and you in danger. The best thing to do is to report it. There's so many ways. You're at a hotel, you can report at a hotel because now all hotels have to have some kind of training. If you're at a grocery store, you can report it to the clerk. You can also just call 911. And there's just so many different things that you can do. But in this case, I'd rather be safe than sorry.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, this is great, and it's so evident that Jesus is using this organization to spread his light and to save those people that he probably wouldn't have reached beforehand. It's just such an amazing organization that you guys have, and I'm really appreciative of it and the cause that you guys are working for. So, well, Meg, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate you and for sharing um everything Abolition NC does.
Thank you. This is a lot of fun.
Yay, good. Well, guys, I will talk to you all next week and I will see you later. Goodbye, guys.
Bye.